Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, I would like to show you guys how I make a wrecked ship out of cardboard, some craft sticks, and even a little bit of green stuff. Alright, so we're gearing up for Ghost Archipelago. That's going to be next week, and Julia and I are going to be filming some games and putting them on my channel. And so when we do these weeks, these spotlight weeks, where we pick a game and kind of play the entire week, usually it means a lot of prep work. I have to prep everything before the games, and that means a lot of terrain building, a lot of painting models, and well, it's a lot of work, right? Even for 3 games or 4 games that we play, it's a lot of prep work. So I've been building this wrecked ship, which I want to use not just in Ghost Archipelago, but in several other games, okay? Anytime I have sort of a beach scenery or shoreline scenery where I can use a wrecked ship as a piece of terrain, well, there it is. You know, I can have something to use for that kind of theme. So let's go to the craft bench now. This is a series of clips that'll show you the project from beginning to close to end. All right, because I probably won't be finishing it today. It'll be finished tomorrow, Saturday. Okay, for my shipwreck terrain, I'm using corrugated cardboard, and this project's not quite finished yet. I need to put all of the craft sticks, which will form the top deck, and of course cover that up, or I can leave that as a whole, however it goes. I mean, this is a really badly wrecked bow of a ship, but I think I'll cover that. And then it's done primarily with craft sticks and corrugated cardboard. And some people don't like using corrugated cardboard. I love it because, especially for these ship projects, because of the striations in the corrugation of the cardboard, you know, it kind of gives that illusion of the planks. This was maybe 10 minutes of work. This is meant to be easy, okay? Not the kind of terrain piece that I want to spend a couple of days on. What I put all my craft sticks, and they're not perfectly aligned, and that's okay. I kind of want that. I want that sort of warped look. You know, the ship has been weathered, a lot of the wood is deformed, you know, that kind of stuff. So but this does give the wreck more strength. Now in the center there you see the mechanism for hoisting the anchor, and I made that with 2 buttons. I just sandwiched some toothpicks in between 2 buttons and a lot of hot glue, and then cut them to size to simulate that wench that you know, sailors used to push to get that anchor up, to hoist that anchor. And then I do have part of the bow pole or bow mast, and part of it is broken off. I'm going to have some wire there with the rest of the, you know, cross mast there. And I'll probably put a little bit, once everything is finished, painted and everything, I will put a little bit of wire to simulate the what's left of the rigging. And then the bottom piece is already base coated, but it has to be painted now. Okay, so I've painted my shipwreck, okay, and now I'm just adding a couple of details. I'm adding the seaweed that you see here, like little kelp strands, and I'll show you how I do that in just a minute. So there's a few kelp strands right there. There's one right here. There's a couple here, and then there's some on the bow pole, some kelp, and then some on the rocks as well. And you know, I'm not going to go too crazy, but I did want to add a little bit of seaweed detail to the rocks and to the ship, so this way, you know, it feels like it's something in the sea, right? It's a sea wreck. So I'm going to show you guys right now. Now I'm using green stuff, and this is pure green stuff. I'm not mixing it with anything. And first thing, I mix my hardener. So I knead it together, my hardener and my resin, to make the green stuff. And then I cut up a little ball of green stuff. And all I do is I roll it up. Okay, just make it into a strand of green stuff like this. Kind of stretch it a little. And I wet my fingers a little bit and just flatten one end so it looks like an oar, right? And I do this, and I keep flattening it a little bit, leaving the end like a little tube, right? And then what I do is I give it a little twirl, right? Most seaweed, most kelp, and that's what I'm trying to simulate, has that sort of bend to it when it's on dry land, okay? And some of it is flat, and some of it is, there's many different kinds of kelp out there. So I put it on the side of my boat, and then I kind of press the ends a little bit just so that it sticks to the cardboard. And then what I do, the very last little detail, is that I take my X-Acto knife, make sure I'm on camera, and then just make a couple of little indentations here, a couple of slits. And that represents the little holdfast, the little roots that this kelp has. I'm just going to do that, okay? And that's it. Now, these are not going to stay green. They're going to be painted a reddish brown or orange. This kelp usually comes in several different shades, several different colors. There is green kelp out there, but being that I have green here for the algae, I'm going to paint my kelp like a reddish color. So this way it'll stand out a little bit. So that's part of the fouling that I'm doing for this terrain piece. Now for the algae, I used Secret Weapon sewage muck, and this is a green powder, and you have a fixer agent for it. And what I do is I dip the brush into the fixer agent, which is this, and I put it on my cardboard areas, the little rough areas that were left behind when I tore out the cardboard to reveal all of this corrugation. Well, some of it stays behind because it's glued, and so you can't get all of it off, and that's okay. So I worked with that and left it on as like fouling, as algae. And that's what I did. So I wanted it to have like a dark kind of greenish color, but you can do this kind of effect, this algae effect, with paint. Okay, so I want to show you guys what I did with a little rowboat, and this is like a wreck of a rowboat, and you see the barnacles there. These are very old actually, and I may actually add a couple more to this. And there's the kelp, right? So that's more or less the color I'm going to use for this kelp. So for the barnacles, I'll show you. I have my little wad of green stuff here, and I'm going to take a little bit of it at a time. I want to make some big ones and small ones, and if you vary the size, it's going to look a lot more interesting. So I'm just going to have my boat there, and it's not, the ship is not yet glued to the base, so I got to be careful. Okay, so I added a little bit of crazy glue to the cardboard there. And then here's my little green stuff batch. And then I just roll up a little ball of green stuff and very carefully, try not to get that on my fingers, and just very carefully glue the ball. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. As a matter of fact, if you don't make it perfectly round, it's quite okay. Barnacles are not perfectly round. Stick the balls on there, okay? Then what I do is I take my ball tool, but you can use anything you want. You can use a toothpick, and I kind of use a toothpick to sometimes stick these on, right, if they're very small. You got to make sure you wet everything. But I'm going to take my ball tool and very carefully, I wet the tip of the ball tool and make a hole right in the center. And again, your barnacles don't have to be perfectly round. Barnacles are not perfectly round. Okay, And I just make a hole there, make sure I make it nice and deep. Okay. And so now that I've done that, you can see how they look. I take my X-Acto knife, and for some of the bigger ones, again, making sure the blade is moist, I do these kinds of indentations, all right? They're like little lines coming out of the, from the center, the hole, out to the barnacle, to the shell of the barnacle, right? And that kind of forms the shell. It gives it nice details so that when you could give this a wash. I usually do like a reddish wash. Okay, so that one's a little bit deep, and I try to connect it to the hole if I can. Doesn't really matter. Once you paint it, it's gonna look cool. And let me just widen that hole a little bit. Okay, and I'm gonna add a few barnacles up here. And I put a little bit of crazy glue on there. All right, and this is a craft stick, so usually green stuff will stick nicely to it. So just add a couple of little bumps there of green stuff, and I try to vary the size as best I can, because it just looks a lot more realistic when you have different sizes of barnacles in a cluster. So, all right, so I'm going to continue doing this, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, and I added a little sea star here right on the deck. Again, it gives that, impression this has been underwater. It is now exposed by the tide, but it's been underwater for a long time. And I'm just going to take my ball tool, but I can use a toothpick, can use anything, and kind of just poke little holes into it, give it a little bit of texture. So when I paint this sea star, I can give it a little ink wash if I want to, and it'll have all this like rough texture. So this way it's not smooth. Just kind of shape things, and it doesn't have to be a perfect star because these are living creatures, so of course they're going to change shape and stuff when they're exposed. Alright, so I'm just doing that, and that's about it. And I'll do another sea star somewhere on the base. So there, I'm building another sea star right in the base here. And I'm going to add the 5th arm. Now some sea stars have that 4-arm configuration, but like they're usually 5 little arms. So I'm going to add that and kind of sculpt my green stuff a little bit. Okay, and that's what I do. And then I'm just going to take my ball tool and kind of make the surface of it a little bit rough. Just poke holes, a bunch of holes in it, and that's it. It'll make it more interesting. And of course I wet my ball tool so the green stuff doesn't stick, and this helps the green stuff stick to the base. Now this is going to be under resin. There's going to be resin that kind of makes the water effect. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I'm going to be finishing real soon. I gotta paint this sea star here on the deck, and we're almost done. Okay, and that's about all the... There's a nice little barnacle cluster right there, some kelp, and that's about all of the fouling that I'm going to do. Okay, so that was about all the fouling work that I did on the shipwreck. And the next step that you'll see in another video will be finishing everything up. And that's adding the resin. I use very cheap resin. And so I'll show you that in the next video. And then the project will be complete once I paint the barnacles and the kelp that's hanging off the wreck and all that stuff. So very close to completion. Thank you, folks, and this has been a video showing you some of my terrain crafts. Have a good day.